But we have many more facets to cover, ladies and gentlemen. As we said, this is a very fascinating world of electric vehicles, and it's only evolving with each passing day. Ladies and gentlemen, we now want to shift our focus to try and explore the role of technology in powering the future of EV mobility. So from AI-driven fleet management systems to advancing in charging infrastructure, technology today, ladies and gentlemen, is really at the core of this revolution. So without any further ado, let me also take this opportunity in welcoming our moderator for this session. Could I request Chandra to join us on stage, Deputy Executive Editor, moneycontrol.com, because she's the one who's going to be steering this conversation. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our lovely panel as well. Amitabh Saran, founder and CEO, Alti Green Propulsion Labs. Deepak Jain, Chairman, Lumax Industry. Arun Vinaya, co-founder and CEO at Exponent Energy, and S.J. Dhinagar, Head of Vehicle Engineering at Ola Electric, completing this lovely, lovely panel for us. Let's have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome this stellar panel. Handing it over to Chandra to take the conversation forward.
And thank you for that, Ridhima. A huge round of applause for our speakers. Many from Bangalore. This Delhi morning here just for this event. So thank you very much for making that trip. And you know, the first three sessions really set the tone for the summit today. We had a very fiery Amitabh Kant in the morning. Then we had key executives from automakers such as Kia, NG Motors and so on. And the previous session, of course, had the stalwarts from the battery ecosystem unpacking what it takes. And right now, we are going to dissect the tech that goes into EVs, what kind of innovations are we seeing today, what can we expect going forward, and you know, how can this really help in scaling up the adoption of green mobility in India? How can it make it more affordable and accessible? So thank you very much for that. Amitabh, let me begin with you. You know, EV tech is such a broad subject, but in terms of the innovations that we are seeing in India, give us a sense of, you know, what you do at Alti Green, what new tech innovations are we seeing in the EV space very quickly before we go to the specifics.
Sure. As an OEM, we started, I think, you know, Alti Green started about 12 years back, and we started focusing on components first. So we realized that the big need for India was to have.
The moment you said components,
yeah.
Lumax seemed very interesting.
Yeah, we started developing motors, controllers, DC-DC, the display clusters, the telematics stacks, anything that was remotely electric in an EV. We realized was something that we need to build in India for India instead of doing these as imports. So we did that for the first 5-6 years. In 2018, we became an OEM, and you know, since then, obviously. We became a three-wheeler OEM. Since then, of course, a lot of components being built, battery packs, BMS, all that. I think in terms of technology, what I'm seeing over the last 12 years has been that, you know, earlier there was still a lot of influence from, you know, our neighboring countries. I think more and more I see that reducing.
When you say neighboring countries, you mean China?
I mean China and other neighboring countries. So the good part is that we're now beginning to realize that these are components that can be created in India. And I think a lot of that is already beginning to happen. Some has already happened in different verticals. So not just in three-wheelers, but two-wheelers, four-wheelers, all that, in trucks and buses. That is a good move. I think where I'm missing is still the focus on software.
Right.
I think software for EVs, people are still not realizing when they talk about components that software is going to be one of the primary components in an EV. And I don't think there's enough being done on the automobile software side.
Why do you think that is?
I think, okay, apart from the software startups, I think most of them are incumbents. Software is not something that comes naturally. So it is considered to be something that's on the side, and it does take a lot of time and effort in building a team.
And also a mindset shift.
Absolutely. So from top to bottom, everyone needs to realize this, and then you need to be able to create a team that doesn't feel alienated from the core business. Okay, this is a core business of automobiles. And by the way, I am a small, 20, 30, 50, 70% team doing automobile software. So I think that integration, that working closely, I think that is something that we will all have to realize in the EV ecosystem. Software is going to play a very, very major role.
Right. Deepak, you represent an auto component powerhouse. So, give us some perspective on what role does hardware innovation play in supporting EV tech, and being an auto component supplier. Do you see EV OEMs creating or fostering auto supply chains?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the panel. I think the way I'm dressed and through the whole peers from Bangalore, I'm probably the odd one out, and also from the component industry. So let me give
there are two others wearing blazers. So, yeah.
And the tie, I meant. Well, let me give you a little bit perspective on the whole EV tech and the component industry. I think from a component point of view, it's a massive opportunity, what we're seeing. And EV has been actually a transition, which is a global transition. It's going to come in India. I think in India, we have to be very clear that which sectors of mobility we can probably transition faster on EV and probably build scale domestically and challenge then the global value chain. From a component point of view, let's say from Lumax, we have been pretty much a powertrain agnostic company, because for us, irrespective of you make EV, you make ICE, you make a gas-based kind of powertrain, our components can fit into it. But from a tech point of view, and I kind of tend to agree with Amitabh, I think it's really fast-tracked the whole component play, the whole technology play. Example, now you have seen few launches in the passenger car segment, two-wheeler segment. We never talked about a human-machine interface. We never talked about connected. We never talked about lightweighting. We never talked about even the whole aspect of comfort with mood coming in. So it's become an extension of an individual, of an emotion, when you're actually getting into the EV. What it does to the component guys, there are two challenges. One is that right now the scale is not there to just start putting investments as in to just see. So there's always that chicken and egg kind of dilemma. However, what's happening is that so much of tech you're putting in, you're going to expose the end user, the customer, to this tech. So my personal belief is, irrespective of whatever powertrain is, going forward, you will actually have to give this tech to basically the consumers for any vehicle platform, irrespective of the powertrain. This will give economies of scale. This will ensure that products, and I'm not talking about critical EV, basically products only. I'm not talking about only batteries or battery management systems. I'm talking about as a vehicle overall. Also in software, I think with this whole development, and just to again give what Amitabh said, I do firmly believe that component guys had been a hardware culture.
Yeah.
Now, even we attempted to get a few software engineers into the company. We probably failed around it. But we learned very quickly that we need to probably set up something in Bangalore or the tech centers around it. Make sure we give them autonomy, independence, and become that as a service or software as a service to not just the customers, but also internally. I think that's where the challenge is, because if I ask a software company, hey, can you sell components, embedded software to the customers? They won't be able to do it. If I say to a component guy, can you build software tech and do it? So you have to have that kind of synergy, but a collaboration, but an inclusive environment to ensure that both competencies are met. However, you are able to give a final solution to the customer.
How tough is it for you, Deepak? Because you have the legacy problem to solve, which a lot of new age companies don't have.
So I think we have to collaborate. I think, 30 years before, when the OEMs were doing collaboration, there was very simple collaboration. Get a component guy globally, get basically the technology from him. So we're very good at collaborating. What we are now doing is a new age collaboration. Startups, softwares, electronic players. Basically, everyone, you need to create an inclusive environment. And if you're able to foster a culture of innovation and inclusivity in your organization, I think that would be the key for further collaborations, and including global collaborations per se. Now, from a software and an electronics point of view, what we are trying is, we're trying to build an innovation center which will incubate these. And also we look at relationships by giving and putting in investments in some areas which we did. We recently did something for alternate gas ways. We got a majority stake in this. The culture is different. We just need to then integrate and kind of expose us to the end customer. Eventually, it's the end customer for us, the OEMs, which will decide if we are able to value create through these things.
Right. Arun, give us your own perspective from the exponent energy vantage, right? In terms of solving the charging infrastructure bottleneck for EVs, can fast charging bring down the cost of ownership? What role can tech play there? Give us your perspective.
I think at Exponent we're an energy company. We don't see ourselves as a charging company. And energy is now a two-sided problem. There's battery on one end and there's charger on the other. And we think rapid charging sort of, and if you really think about it, if you take the battery out of the equation, the EV is already perfect in some sense. Right? It's faster, it's sexier, it looks better, it's no vibrations, no maintenance. I love that EV. Why am I not buying an EV? A, it takes too long to charge. I'm not sure of my battery life. And also, where do I charge? Right? So it's really all about battery tech, battery life, battery charge time, the charging network. So you really need to create the right energy ecosystem that allows people to trust EVs and buy EVs. And at the end of the day, mobility is about freedom. People want to buy a vehicle because they want to do whatever they want, whenever they want. If they had to schedule stuff, they would take a bus, right? So I think that's the freedom and flexibility that still, I think, remains to be unlocked in the EV space. That's our core vision, to make energy simple, make energy accessible. And rapid charging definitely helps. Obviously, energy now is a tech problem. That's why startups like us think we have a right to win. It's not a commodity business. There's energy in the wall. We all have access to it. Question is, how are you going to take energy from the wall and put it into the vehicle? And that's a fundamentally tech problem. Right? Money helps, but money doesn't solve the problem. Right? So that's why we think the future of energy, what you see today as commodity businesses, as energy, will actually be tech businesses in the future. And I think the company that builds the best energy experience will sort of have a big take on this. Of course, there's swap, there's slow charging, there's rapid charging, there are multiple solutions, and I think there's going to be category-specific energy solutions, right?
Right.
Rapid charging helps reduce the cost. If I have rapid charging, from our point of view, we're able to reduce battery size, fundamentally reduce the number of cells that you need to put into the vehicle. We're able to optimize battery cost. On the other end, charging is actually a real estate business. So today, I set up a charging station. I charge 2 vehicles a day. It's a terrible business. But on the same piece of land, we're now charging 25 to 30 vehicles. Like fast food is cheaper food. Fast charging is actually cheaper charging, right? And so that's how we look at simplifying both sides of the energy business.
Right. And you also set up a new facility recently in Bangalore. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So we have something called the E-Park, which is the energy park that we're sort of setting up. It's probably the first time. I'm not sure if it's the first time in India, where we're sort of bringing together R&D, testing, and manufacturing for, I think battery technology, energy technology under one roof. Historically, it's always been hard because the designers want to sit in the city and the manufacturing guys are sitting outside the city, and you're always struggling to find cohesiveness. And a lot of battery technology, a lot of R&D in battery manufacturing is not in just design, it's also in process. Like, how do you automate battery manufacturing, right? So it's not just design something and ship it to the factory and sort of a commodity business. So I think now we need R&D in manufacturing more than ever. And this is new to India, because India's actually not great at high-tech manufacturing, right? It's still something that we're sort of figuring out. We've always imported this. We've never done high-volume high-tech, right? So this is the first time. We've done soaps or satellites. So we're now sort of, for the first time in the last 10 years, getting into high-tech, high-volume.
Right. Dinkar, we recently had the opportunity to visit the Giga factory, and it's a very ambitious project. So, in terms of high-tech manufacturing, in terms of, bringing the software element that Amitabh was alluding to, how are you doing it?
Yeah, so I think Ola as a company is very unique. Where it started as a company to code, right? Bhavesh is a coder himself. I heard him say that he wrote the first GPS code for these Ola cabs, which is to be shortest, because the current systems in GPS has a distance accuracy of certain meters. He wanted to have it 1/10 of it. So the company is born out of software. So this is a company which has more software engineers than mechanical engineers, and more electrical electronic engineers than mechanical engineers. Very uniquely placed in the thing. So the entire EV runs with the software as the core of its, or a hub of the wheel, right? Everything gets connected through software. And everything which has mass and volume has costs. Deepak is there to talk about it, because any part you add in the vehicle costs money. The earlier sessions, Amitabh Kant, everybody talked about the price parity of these vehicles. The way to make EVs work is the price parity. So move everything out of this parts which are visible into software code, runs in few bytes and kilobytes inside a chip, makes things possible. So this is the huge thing. And now we are adding an AI layer on top of that to do write codes, verify codes, automate things, learn things, do things with less mistake. So this overall software capability and the tech capability on AI is where the company can do different things. Scale up platforms, create solutions, and have less components. Get the best out of components. Vishal talked about the energy density of our battery pack, one of the best, 4680 form factor. To get the best, anything which is mechanical, get more out of it. Less material to motor, kilowatt per kg of a motor. We are one of the best in the country on a small size platform. We are moving it double. So everywhere when you see material, make it sweat, double the capability, either a cell or at the motor or the electronic, power electronics capability in a size versus power. And everything else moves into software stack, and later on it will slowly move into AI stack. AI in the cloud, which runs to the data coming out of the vehicles, tethered by the 4G today, tomorrow 5G. On an instantaneous basis, half the decisions can shift to cloud, half of them can happen in the vehicle. And the edge-based AIs on the vehicle, thinking along with the user, helping him to drive better, get a range better, get the life of the cells better. So this is what we do in both cell and vehicles.
Right. Question for you, Amitabh and Deepak. Do you see autonomous vehicles take off in India? At least in Silicon Valley, people are now used to, taking a Waymo and riding without a driver. I mean, at least to look at it, it still takes some adjustment. But considering India's infrastructure and roads and everything, do you see this as the next big frontier, and will it really take off?
From my perspective, I think it will take off in limited areas. So, for example, closed spaces, airports, factories, those kinds of places where I think it's going to be easier and simpler. I think Dinkar mentioned about AI. I see applied AI playing a big role for us in India to be able to get to a place where ADAS and the recognition of all kinds of oddities on the road can be captured and our software is tested for it. So in India, it's not about a pedestrian, walking on the side of the road. It's you could just walk in. There could be animals. There could be all kinds of things, potholes. So lots of things, right? So I think applied AI does that for you. It creates millions of use cases according to which you can test your software and be in a position to do it. I think there is still time before autonomous driving, but levels of autonomy, I think you will start seeing ADAS and those kinds of features you will start seeing. In closed spaces, of course, you will start seeing a lot of autonomy in the country.
Deepak, to some extent, we are seeing this take off in terms of the industrial robotics segment. But in terms of the B2C segment, he said that it will perhaps work in closed spaces, confined spaces. What's your view?
So I think for us, autonomous is an end goal. Safety, passenger safety, pedestrian safety, I think that's all encompassing autonomous. And then to different stages of autonomous there is. So for us, I think ADAS gives us a massive opportunity. You're already seeing ADAS on vehicles, different level 1, level 2, level 3. And I think that's where the whole ecosystem, again, from a component point of view, needs to be nurtured. Vision systems, right? We're talking about sensors. We're talking about the whole electronification of a car. And with that, if can the component industry challenge a very deep localization? It's not just at a component level, it's actually at the tech level, it's actually talking about design and engineered, because let's understand that until this is localized, you will not get competencies.
Yeah.
And India also has to have unique solutions. India is a very diverse market, so let's not kind of compare it with what US is doing or Silicon Valley is doing or even China is doing. I think India has to find its own solutions at an affordable level. And again, as I mentioned before, we have to prioritize what segments we want to target on mobility. India moves on two-wheelers. We don't move on four-wheelers.
Yeah.
When I talked with my colleagues in the West, we said, hey, we're in the automotive industry. They talk about pass cars. We talk about two-wheelers. So India is a unique market, and the whole autonomous journey will be also very unique and India-centric. I think ADAS, given safety and the ease of driving, will basically be the forefront in this.
Right. Arun, ultimately, can tech actually solve for actual problems that people have, consumers have, when it comes to, adapting to EVs, whether it's battery life, range anxiety, safety concerns? How can tech solve for these real-world issues?
Yeah, see, I think with an EV, it's a fundamentally connected platform. It's a digital platform. It's not like software on top, right? It's software actually is a fundamental building block.
It's built into...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Two companies with same hardware, but differential software, the team with better software will win, right? And so EVs are now fundamentally changing the rule book of design, manufacturing, selling, service, energy, and financing. Any company that's not tech first will not win the EV game. So if you're thinking, hey, let's be a trader, let's import something and sell it here. And I think the markets have sort of spoken over the last 4 years, right? You have to get your hands dirty. You have to build hardcore tech. And by tech, I'm not just talking software. You got to get deep and dirty into hardware, into manufacturing, along with owning a bunch of software capabilities to really win this. Even financing, right? And we talked about autonomous, right? And
yeah.
In India, for example, more than autonomous, financing is still a large problem. Right? Most people are not able to buy an EV because they don't get finance, because financiers don't understand EV, right? So there's still a large tech problem to be able to solve for battery life, to get financiers to start betting on EV. So I think the problems we choose, I agree with everything everyone said, which the problems we choose and the platforms we build in India will be very unique.
Very different from what the West...
look very different. Like most people in India don't have charging at home. A large reason why people adopt Exponent is because they just can't charge at home. They don't park at home, right? So it's a very unique problem. So I think every bit of this will look different, yeah.
Right. Dinkar, I think we have the last 5 minutes. But, one point that Mr. Amitabh Kant also made very emphatically is that EV players in India need to do more in terms of knowledge sharing, in terms of open sourcing, whatever innovations they are doing on the EV side, on the tech side. What are your own plans with respect to that? Because this is something that Tesla has also adopted.
I'll continue what Arun said, right? The core tech is software, right? For an EV to work, the EV ecosystem to operate, the backend to operate, the manufacturing to operate, and the future designs to evolve. Everything revolves around software and the way you use either on the design side or on the running of the vehicle and making it run longer or adding features on a regular basis. Everything runs on software. The rest of the things are very open. So theoretically, everybody who buys a vehicle knows what it is. I've never seen a single person saying, this is inspiring. Every company looks at every company's design. So it's all coexist together. Every auto company in India knows, every component manufacturer knows every new vehicle's parts. And everybody in the industry knows how every company puts their products together, right? And so there is nothing that to share beyond making a good product and making it run on the road, people looking at it, and you will see them moving. So Ola has done in many places. We have moved away from wires to bus bars. We have moved away from distributed electronics to centrally located electronics. We have moved away from the way the sensors are done. We have moved away from the way the motors are connected. A lot of things are very uniquely done. And they're all out in open. And whether it is openly shared, all our IPs are to be shared. Yes, it's a call to be taken by the company. But the strong belief is that they are no longer secrets. Every engineer knows when he sees an inspiring design how to do that in a different way. So IP really is not a barrier for good engineering. But they are all there to share. And if specifically a particular technology of Ola is interesting to someone, yes, there will be a discussion.
Right. On that note, we're out of time, but thank you very much, four of you, for your perspective. And, I think we will be breaking for lunch, but please come back because at 1 p.m. we will have the Union Minister, Nitin Gadkari, here at the venue. Thank you, Ridhima. Thank you very much for that amazing session.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you to our lovely panelists.